Welcome to my introductory altars course. For more information about altars, you can read my resources: The Way of the Mystic Wizard by Matthew Baker, Honoring Your Ancestors by Mallory Ladois, Sacred Ceremony by Stephen Farmer. I will have cover photos in the group under the altars section in the guides. This lesson will cover getting started in sacred space. In this lesson, we will learn about building our spiritual practice and developing a living relationship with your soul. Your soul is listening, watching, and waiting to create your practice with you. Do not be surprised if various intuitions, signs, or synchronicities begin to manifest into the material world or in dreams. They reaffirm your soul's presence, support, and guidance as you take the first steps in creating a new orientation for your life. The soul waits patiently for the self to begin to wake up, turn toward it, make a connection from this dimension to the soul dimension, much like a parent waiting for a child to learn to walk. But the soul has always been there, watching, loving, and supporting you. Finding sacred space. The first steps to building a daily spiritual practice is finding a sacred space. This space can be any place that you can have uninterrupted time in which you can create a simple, temporary, or permanent altar and have a place to sit. It can be a corner of your room, an entire room, or even a closet you clear out for this use. The purpose of creating sacred space is to help us encounter the otherworldly or connect to the mystical realms of the soul and spirit. We go to our sacred space to connect to the divine and align with different levels of our being and become whole. There are places where the inner and the outer worlds are more aligned, and in which it is easier to communicate with the inner realms and easier to do our practice. Like any special spot set aside for a particular activity, space becomes an intentional container for working. Just as teachers set up their classroom to encourage learning, and doctors set up surgery rooms to perform operations, we manage space this way in every central activity in life. The concept of creating sacred space may seem odd to modern people because they have not felt empowered to create their own sacred space. In ancient times, it was common practice to have space for practice and connection with the inner world and the divine. Every ancient Roman household had a shrine to local deities and ancestors. We have lost our connection to this kind of veneration of the sacred. We have lost the pathway to the soul and our own inner wisdom. We are returning to our shamanic roots, the time long before religion turned into a vast organization with rules and regulations and specialized priests. We are reaching deep into our ancestor knowledge for the instincts to create sacred space and to claim our fundamental human right to develop and express ourselves in a way that supports our practice and our connection to the inner world. You cannot connect the mind and the body without creating sacred place to practice. The art of communing with the inner world and the divine. In chakras, it is the heart that connects the mind to the body, upper world to the lower. So, in a sense, our altars are kind of a sacred outer heart space. We are trained to believe that only in a church or temple can significant spiritual intention be engaged. Yet all the ancient mystics and wizards went to caves or monastic cells or built rooms and towers to practice the mystical and magical arts. Sacred sites embody a person's intention to open deeply to the soul and the spiritual dimensions and become aware of awareness. In time, your space will resonate with the perpetual tone of sacred purpose because of the intentional way you enter and perform your practice. It is when you least want to practice that this frequency and intention of space become more immeasurable and helping to stick with your commitment to practice. If you have a temporary space that you set up every time you practice, The very act of setting up your altar creates the space and sets the tone for your practice. A temporary space can be anywhere you lay out sacred objects to create the space and intention to practice. All you need is a cloth, some sacred objects, and a set up and take down ritual. It is important to be able to practice when you are least capable of doing so. We practice to master ourselves, and mastery counts most when you are under stress. On the days you aren't home or don't feel like practicing, decide to practice for just 1 minute. You can practice anywhere for at least 1 minute. These mini sessions can be also helpful as you go throughout your day. No one but you knows what you're doing. So there's a lot of different books I've read, and I'm going to try to add about when they're talking about awareness. When we talk about awareness, we're talking about being present. Most of the time, we go through our day and we're not really there. One of the books I read, there was a there was a review where the person was mad because the lady was like, "Be present while you're pouring a drink," and the lady thought it was stupid, like whoever was the reviewer. But I think they missed what they were talking about. They were talking about the fact that if you're pouring the water out of a pitcher, are you paying attention to what you're doing? Or are you thinking about all the other things you have to do today? Or what you did yesterday? Or some stupid comment you said 5 years ago to somebody in the store or at work that they probably don't even remember, but it's still rattling around inside your head. As somebody with ADHD, I struggle with being present because my mind is everywhere. It's here, it's in the future, it's in the past, but it's never really focusing on what I'm doing at that time. I'm always split. And I know a lot of people think it's great that you can multitask, but in a way, you're missing what's right in front of you because you're in three different places at one time. You're in the past because you're thinking about all the stuff you did before and how it puts you to where you are. You're in the future because you're worrying about what you got to do to get to wherever your next step is. But you're very rarely ever present with where you are and paying attention fully to what you're doing. And it's hard. I mean, we're so trained to be everywhere doing everything. So pulling focus on the one thing that you're doing can be really difficult, especially for a lot of people, and myself included. I mean, I've been doing a daily practice for about 5 years now, and I still have trouble focusing. So just building this course was good for me because it helped refresh my mind about what my daily practice should be, um, how my sacred space should be treated, and what it means to to do this work. It's not just about connecting with your ancestors or your deities or everything. It's also about connecting to yourself and your higher self and your own intuition. I mean, all those people are great. Being able to connect to your ancestors, deities, and everything. It's really a big part of what you do in your daily practice. But I've forgot the part about, or I'm supposed to also be in touch with myself. Um, I think we all tend to leave ourselves out of the picture because we're focused on helping everybody else or trying to make everybody else happy. And, getting back to daily practice is also about making yourself happy as well, which a lot of us, I think, put us on the back burner. And I'm not saying we shouldn't help other people because a lot of people take that the wrong way. But we also have to make sure we include ourselves in the people that we're helping or trying to understand or trying to work with. You can develop the ability to be aware of what is in the foreground of your perceptions as well as the background. This double perspective allows the shifts that occur when you are awake in the presence of awareness. So that's like in my mind, pouring that picture, but in the background of my brain, I'm working on 50 other things. My mind's thinking about all the things I have to do that day. I'm on the next step. You know, I'm not just pouring that pitcher, I'm thinking about, I'm not paying attention to, I've picked that pitcher up. Now I'm tipping that pitcher over and I'm pouring it into this thing and I'm watching the water flow and I'm watching how high it is so I don't overflow it. I'm thinking about, let me dump this water in here real quick so I can hurry up and put it in the fridge or put it on my teapot or whatever I'm doing with it. I'm I'm a step ahead instead of being where I'm at doing what I'm doing. Being awake in everyday actions, and then being awake is, like I said, it's being present in your everyday actions. This affects your heart, which are your feelings, your throat, which is your speech, your mind, which is your thinking, and your body, which is your energy. Because you're not having your energy be split into 3 or 4 or 5 million different directions. It's only on the thing you're working on. So you're not draining yourself because you're trying to fix yesterday's problems and the things tomorrow that might not even happen, but you think could be problems. You're right there just doing what you're doing. And these are also your different chakras. You've got the chakras in the body below the heart. There's three. You've got the heart chakra, the throat, and then in your mind, you've got, your third eye and the crown. So I love how all the things link together in some way. But just building your daily practice is about trying to help yourself become more focused, um, and just more aligned with what your intentions of what you want to do, and just being present in the present moment, which, like I said, it takes a lot to be present and not worried about everything else. With time, you will realize that you have become the moving altar. In that state, you are more capable of hearing the soul's guidance and of spontaneously feeling joy and compassion. So, you build your altar so you have that container, and you'll hear a container a lot. All of the courses I've taken, you're building containers for different things, and this is your container for your intentions, for your awareness, for being present in that moment when you're building your practice with however that means for you, because everybody's practice is an individual practice. Like, I'll go over the basics. I'm pulling things out of all these different books I'm reading to help give people an idea of why you have this urge to build an altar. Um, Eventually, I'll put in there, like the next lesson is going to be, how you can build your altar, what you can incorporate it. And then I'll have a lesson on ancestral veneration. And I'm trying to break them down into bite-sized stuff because it's a lot to take in. I mean, it seems like it's quick. It's maybe a 15-minute course, but when you sit and think about it and you try to digest these small bits, what is it that you really want? What is your soul or your heart space? What do you want it to look like? It can be however you want it to be, as complicated, as simple. I mean, it could be a stick of incense and a candle. It can be a couple of crystals. It can be whatever you want it to be, whatever, and it can expand or it can shrink. Some people will go in and they'll decorate them every season. Every time the wheel turns and you get a new season, they'll decorate them. They'll decorate them for the holidays. It's a very personal experience, and most of the time you will see people will have like a mock setup of an altar for an example, but no one really shows their actual altar. Like, mine is right in the middle of the living room, so if anybody came in, they would see it, but it's not something that you normally share, especially in other witchy communities. So we'll get into everything. Um, I'll try to cover more. Like I said, this is just the basic introductory to altars. Uh, I've read a bunch of books, and this was the first one that talks about you as part of somebody that you're supposed to be. The whole altar's helping you and working on you and building that space to make you happy, make your heart happy, make it a beautiful heart space. And like I said, just doing this 1 15-minute lesson makes me look at my altar space differently and how I want to maybe, when I go through and do my next sweep of cleaning and rearranging it, I may want to simplify it or change some things or add some things or take some things off to make it more aligned with my intentions. So it's, it's a good lesson to learn. It's a good place to start. Hopefully it's not overcomplicated. And if you have any questions, always feel free to ask during the lessons, or you can put them in the comments if you're doing this by yourself, or message me, and I'll try to answer them the best I can. Nobody ever knows everything. So I love making these courses because not only am I helping other people learn, but I'm teaching myself again as well. Uh, like I said, you're not present, you're all over the place. Sometimes things become a habit and you just get up and you do the ritual and you do your practice, and I don't want to say the intention isn't there. Maybe you've lost the focus. I don't know how to explain it in the right way, but it just becomes a habit instead of practice. And I think there's a difference there. It's something you get up every day and you do it. You say your prayers, you light your candles, you do whatever whatever your daily practice is for you. But maybe you're not really as present as you were when you started. So this is just things to kick around, and then we'll get into the next lesson, where I start talking more about how to build your altar up. I just wanted to get, space awareness so you can look around your house and see, do I have space to do this? Do I need to make a temporary altar that I can put back in this? You get like a special fancy box and put all your things in it. I know they sell little mini altars that you can just pop up, put your things on, then take them down. My big joke is I did an altar for a deity, and they said that this particular deity likes to have their things on a tray. So I bought a rolling tray because I'm out of touch. And I didn't realize that it was a rolling tray for rolling joints. And I'm sitting there going, it doesn't have wheels. Why do they call it a rolling tray? And then it clicked. But I liked it because it's a tray and it has a magnetic closure that matches the base. So if I have to pack that particular altar up, I can take the magnetic top off, put all my crystals and things inside, and then put the lid back on and then put it in and move the altar somewhere else if I have to take it down. If company comes or something, or I don't know if I have to move it, it's movable. So it was just a funny story I had because I'm like, this is so pretty. I'm going to grab this thing. There's no wheels. Why doesn't it roll? So I don't know. Sometimes I just thought it was funny. But those are different things to consider when you pick your space. If you don't have a space that's going to be like where you can sit down for however long you want your daily practice to be without somebody bugging you, or coming in and interrupting you, for 5 or 10 minutes or however long your daily practice is going to be, then maybe temporary is the way to go. And then you can take it with you and be like, okay, maybe today I'll go and do my practice outside because everybody's inside watching TV. Or I can do my practice in my room because everybody's doing something else. Like I said, again, it's personal, but it's a good thing to have some ideas of what sacred space means for you and how you want to start to practice your altar. So that the best place to start is looking around your house for where an altar fits in your life. And like I say, it can be anywhere. It can be temporary, it can be permanent. But that's something to think of before you get to the next lesson.